Welcome in, everyone. Let's just dive right into it. Today, we're settling in for a really warm, cozy, and honestly, deeply reflective explainer on a book that has absolutely taken the reading world by storm. I'm talking about Freida McFadden's 2026 psychological thriller, The Divorce. Now, you might be thinking, wait, a psychological thriller for a heartfelt explanator? But trust me on this one. Beneath all those wild plot twists this author is so famous for, there's actually a profound story about human resilience. So we're going to break down the surface-level thrills, keeping it entirely spoiler-free, of course, and extract some beautiful life lessons along the way.
So what is a happily ever after really worth? It's this haunting central question posed right on the back cover, and I really want you to ponder it as we go through our book club-style discussion today. Like, what is the true cost of maintaining a picture-perfect marriage? In the pursuit of the dream house and the flawless family image, what parts of ourselves do we actually end up sacrificing? It's a question that just pulls you right into the emotional core of this whole domestic drama.
And the marketing for this book hits the nail on the head. The tagline reads, "Some marriages end, this one starts a war." That perfectly sets up the insanely high stakes we're dealing with here. We aren't just looking at two people amicably parting ways and, splitting the silverware. No, we are looking at absolute emotional warfare. It's exactly the kind of intense, pulse-pounding conflict that makes this book ridiculously readable. The kind that keeps fans up until 2 a.m. telling themselves, okay, just one more chapter.
Section 1. Shattered Perfect Life. The Inciting Incident.
The horror of this story starts with something so incredibly mundane. Our protagonist, Naomi, is living the quintessential love story. She and her husband, Jeremy, bought the dream house. They have a beautiful 5-year-old son, Teddy. But then, one afternoon, Naomi arrives home with Teddy and her quote-unquote intelligent, smart garage door just refuses to open. And her house key doesn't work either. When Jeremy finally shows up, he just completely brushes it off, casually claiming it's a surprise renovation for their anniversary. It is such a chilling, everyday scenario that literally makes your stomach drop. Well, spoiler alert, it wasn't a renovation. If emotional destruction had a welcome package, Jeremy definitely delivered it with a shiny bow on top. I mean, look at these calculated steps. He kicks her out, changes the locks, completely drains their shared bank account so she literally has nothing, hires the absolute best, most ruthless divorce lawyers in the city, and the cherry on top, takes up with a 20-something girlfriend named Veronica. The sheer audacity is almost laughable if it wasn't so utterly devastating. He essentially tries to erase Naomi from her own life in one fell swoop.
Section 2. Unreliable Minds. Thrills and Deception. So a crucial part of what makes this so gripping is how the author uses the unreliable narrator technique. If you're familiar with thrillers, you know this means the person telling you the story might not be giving you the full picture. Either they're lying to you or maybe they're lying to themselves. McFadden expertly uses this to make us question who we can actually trust. Because even Naomi, who we naturally want to root for as she navigates this horrific betrayal, often while pouring a very generous glass of wine to cope, which, fair enough, even she starts to show some red flags. We find ourselves totally empathizing with her one minute and then completely reevaluating her motives the next.
Because honestly, in this messy divorce, literally every character is hiding something behind closed doors. The entire cast is full of complex, deceptive, and just deeply flawed people. Everyone's got an agenda. In fact, throughout all the chaos of these fractured relationships and secret motives, you quickly realize that Naomi's sharp, quick-witted lawyer, Ezra, is basically one of the rare beacons of normalcy in the whole book. He's this grounding anchor in a sea of people who are just constantly keeping you guessing.
Section 3. Danger of Obsession. A Psychological Core. Naomi refuses to just accept defeat and fade away into some dingy apartment. Instead, she fixates on Jeremy's new 20-something girlfriend, Veronica. And what starts as a pretty relatable, cynical curiosity, just checking up on the new woman in her husband's life, rapidly twists into a really dark and dangerous obsession. This explainer wouldn't be complete without touching on how brilliantly the book explores the dark corners the human mind can venture into when someone is pushed entirely to the brink. It totally blurs that line between self-preservation and self-destruction.
Which brings me to a question I want to ask you directly. How far would you go if you were pushed to your absolute limits? Just imagine the painful, grounded reality Naomi faces before the wild thriller elements even kick in. We're talking about the very real humiliation of awkward schoolmom gossip, the absolute sheer panic of losing all financial security overnight, the quiet cruelty of friends picking sides during a messy split. These moments sting so much because they are just so believable. If everything you built was stolen from you, what would you actually be capable of to get your family back?
Section 4. Lessons from the Chaos. Finding the Heart.
Take a breath for a second.
What can a chaotic thriller actually teach us about our own resilience? It's really easy to just dismiss high-stakes domestic dramas as pure popcorn entertainment. But fiction, even the absolute wildest thrillers, acts as a mirror. It forces us to look at how humans react when the bottom falls out from under them. And it asks us to reflect on where we find our own strength when our entire world is turned completely upside down.
Our first major takeaway here highlights the stark contrast between the illusion of a perfect life and the stinging reality underneath it all. We so often judge a marriage by its cover, right? The dream house, the smiling family photos on Instagram, that surface-level happiness. But the messy reality can be full of emotional warfare, fractured trust, and hidden deception. This story serves as such a powerful reminder that appearances can be incredibly deceiving. We never truly know what battles people are fighting behind their own locked garage doors.
Section 5. Finding Resilience. Strength in Hardship.
When we map out Naomi's emotional journey, it really starts with being completely blindsided by betrayal. At first, she is entirely a victim of her circumstances. Then she falls hard into the trap of obsession, letting her anger and curiosity drive her to some pretty dark places. But ultimately, hitting that absolute rock bottom becomes the spark. The complete destruction of her old life actually forces a profound self-discovery. It shows us that resilience isn't about bouncing back perfectly. It's about navigating the mess, making a ton of mistakes, and eventually forging a completely new version of yourself out of the wreckage.
And I think this crucial point is captured so beautifully in a quote from one of the book's reviewers. They described this story as showing divorce not just as an ending, but as a catalyst for transformation and self-discovery. Even in the midst of extreme emotional warfare, manipulation, and hardship, there's this deep sense of hope. The ending of one chapter, no matter how brutal it feels, is the necessary blank page for the next one. It's a true testament to the fact that personal challenges, no matter how devastating, can lead to some truly incredible growth.
So, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. When the facade of your life falls apart, what new strength will you discover in the ruins? The divorce might be a wild, totally unput-downable thriller, but it leaves us with some very real inspiration. Sometimes everything just has to shatter so we can finally see what we are truly made of. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. If this sparked your curiosity, I highly recommend picking up the book to uncover all those crazy twists for yourself. Take a moment today to reflect on your own incredible resilience. Keep learning, keep reading, and I'll catch you in the next one.